Welcome, Council. Thank you very much for your attendance this evening. We have lots in front of us. And we'll get right into it. Tonight's meeting is being held as a virtual meeting due to the declared emergency. It may be streamed live as well as recorded and published on the Southwest Middlesex YouTube channel. Is there any member of Council declaring a pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move on. Additions to the agenda. Are there any, Council? Jill? I think we have everything rewritten and up to date. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion that the regular agenda of the Council meeting dated September 15th, 2021 be accepted as presented. Moved by Doug Bartlett, seconded by Martin Vink. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Delegations and presentations. We have Mike DeVos with us tonight. I trust Jill, he's here and will join us. The meeting is to consider the engineer's report on the Switzer Drain, McLean Switzer Branch. Council shall consider the report prepared by Spreets dated July 27th, 2021, and shall give opportunity to any person who owns lands within the area requiring drainage who have not signed the petition an opportunity to do so and or remove their names. Mr. DeVos, are you with us? Jill, can you confirm his attendance?
So I'm not sure he is here yet.
Okay. If not, we can.
Denny?
Yes, Denny, I see your hand there. Go ahead.
He just entered the attendee room, so I'll let him in.
Okay. Oh, where are you? Mike, if you'd like to unmute, go ahead. Mike, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Mike, I have already introduced the subject to Council, so if you would like to begin with an overview of the work required, you can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, this report was prepared in accordance with Section 78 of the Drainage Act for repair and improvement to the existing McLean Switzer branch of the Switzer Drain. There's about 290 meters of the top end of the open channel on the Middleman property that was requested to be enclosed with a tile. There was a clean out completed in the recent past, so this tile would be put in to replace the functioning of that and eliminate long-term maintenance, as well as increase access for the landowner in farming practices. We are recommending that a swale or low run be created over top of the old ditch to allow surface water to maintain an outlet, as these tiles are not considered large enough to take all the flows from all our drain events. They are a low flow system that does allow excess water to flow over the ground in several times during the year. We are recommending a 27-inch diameter pipe be installed for that length, and the swale be constructed over top. The swale will be a farm swale. It will not be grassed, but it will be wide enough and deep enough to accommodate the flows. We are recommending a new catch basin be installed at the upper end of the line fence between Middleman and Walsh to accept surface water and help get as much water into the pipe as possible. We did design the drain for today's design coefficient rather than the older design coefficient of the original drain. The upstream drain was constructed in 1975, so it was designed to a smaller standard than today's standards. So this drain is designed to accommodate the future as well. We will be installing and recommending erosion control measures at the outlet, which will require a new drop chute constructed of stone to help drop the water from the field level down into the ditch. There is no work required downstream, as that was being constructed through a separate report. And I would stop and open up to questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike. There is a protocol we follow, Council. Questions from any of the affected property owners who are present. If you'd like to direct those questions through the chair, anyone, and I will direct them through the chair to Mike DeVos, please. And Jill, I'll just await a cue for you if there are any joining us. Ian McLean, I see on my screen here. And Ian, if you'd like to unmute yourself, and please feel free to direct any questions through me. How are you, Ian?
Okay.
Good. Thank you for joining us. Ian, if you have any questions you'd like to direct to Mike through me, go ahead, please.
Can I just make a statement first?
Yes, by all means. Yep.
Concerning John Walsh, he won't be participating tonight because he was already away on a trip outside the country before this package was delivered. So he won't be able to participate. So I don't know how that affects everyone. I'll make note that he is the largest, he's affected. He has the largest acreage at 175 acres that goes into this drain. The minimum farms is, I think, 12 acres. So I want to make that everyone aware why he's not here. And I don't know whether there's a chance to do this meeting later or how it affects the outcome. But I know he would like to have participated. So anyways.
Just in response to that, Ian, if I could, thank you very much for those words. And we all regret that Mr. Walsh is not with us as well. But as chair, there's two cautionary elements that I have to advise council of. The first, we must consider the timelines as stipulated under the Drainage Act. And secondly, should council show any favoritism to one person on this drain, it may create problems down the road for even an appeal on those grounds. We have, of course, meetings coming up that are scheduled, but we have land issues of other ratepayers that we have to deal with in those future agendas. And it is extremely difficult to defer this, not without some consequences or problems. But council ultimately make that decision. But I just want to advise my council that those two cautionary aspects, we have timelines as opposed to the Drainage Act, what they infer. And secondly, we regret circumstances did not allow Mr. Walsh to attend, but the Drainage Act does not make any allowances for that. The communications go out on a specific time period, hopefully to allow everyone enough time, but it's unfortunate that circumstances were such with John that he could not be with us, but just please beware of those cautionary notes. Ian, further to that, are there any questions that you would like to ask the engineer in terms of surface runoff or anything?
A little bit about the swale. I don't know how steep, what kind of fall that is, or what kind of velocity the water is going to have across that swale. I would have thought it maybe should be grassed to protect it.
Okay, well, we'll see if we can get you an answer for that. Mike, can you direct your comments regarding that swale and the surface of that swale directly to Ian?
Yes, typically through past experience and as well looking at design guidelines, the velocities at a 0.4% grade are typically not to the extent that you would see farmers requesting a grass waterway. Once you get above 0.5 into the 0.7 range, by the time you get up to 0.7, people will be experiencing some surface or topsoil movement on a more frequent basis that would cause landowners to request that. So being in the typical range where it's not requested or required, we did not propose to have that at this time. The landowner could request it at a later date or build one privately if they wished.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Ian, does that answer your question there? Or you have any follow-up?
As I read through it, the report talks about grass, and so where was that grass going to be, or is that just a generic report? Or there was, because in the report, I don't have the page in front of me, it spoke to some grass and seeding.
Mike, go ahead if you can understand that.
The only location I could think that you may be seeing that would be in the specifications or maybe reference to a berm. There would be a grass berm at the property line constructed to try and capture surface water and get that surface water into the catch basin and the drain to the full extent of the pipe's capacity. So in between the fence and the ditch, there would not be grass. So I'm not sure exactly what part you're looking at, but that could be possibly what you're looking at or what you saw.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Any other questions that the property owners would like to put towards the engineer through the chair?
Yes, I have another question.
Yep.
In the diagrams, Mike, I don't see any diagram or shape or sizing of the construction of the catch basin at the line fence. What all goes in there? How big an area does it take up? Whereabouts is it exactly located? Those are some of the concerns. I just wondered what was in there.
Yeah, Mike, go ahead. You may have alluded to that in your remarks. Can you identify the catch basin and the location?
On the drawing, there is a detail. It's labeled as DICB detail station 20+280. It's a bit of a cross section that shows the catch basin in terms of its elevation and the field. The catch basin itself, if you see the diagram, the front face of the catch basin will be on the west side of the fence, which is the minimum side of the fence, and its invert will be lower than the field, and there'll be some grass up against the fence on the east side of the fence, which is typical of a fence row, which would be there to help drop the water down into the catch basin. So that's showing its location, and that detail also labels it as a 900 by 1200 basin, which is a 3-foot by 4-foot inside dimension with a bird cage grate, which will help capture any debris and stop it from clogging as much as possible with the bird cage grate.
Okay. Thank you, Ian. Anything else, Ian?
So as we went through the report, I don't see that talked about a section D, the schedule D, sorry, assessment and for maintenance. I'm just concerned, and I see A, B, and C, but I really don't know. I don't see a D. Is it?
We'll see if we can get some clarification on that for you, Ian. Just give Mike a second to reference the page.
Yeah, if it's not there, there should be a maintenance schedule provided, and it will have to be mailed out for the quarter revision. if it's not in your package. It's in my package, but if it's not in yours, it will have to be distributed.
Okay, so we'll see that you get that, Ian.
So concerning maintenance, Mike, going forward, if there's any major maintenance, something goes wrong, anything we don't know, how does that, will that come back to, like, the assessments come back to this original plan, or will John Walsh Farms be hung out with a larger share because of their larger property? Because they have more acres than Ryan, and how does that work?
Yes, typically the maintenance schedule that you will receive will show the revised distribution for future maintenance, which will have a higher, more traditional normal distribution, which is, it's not entirely to the upstream, but it's not to the same tune as what this report. The costs involved with the construction of this report are vastly higher than what they would typically be if you were to have a tile in place and maintaining it. So it's not the number that you have shown in Schedule C, but it is still some assessment to the upstream lands. It's going to be more the tune of 50% to the adjacent lands and 50% to the upstream, just to give you an idea.
Ian, that's an approximate answer to what you need. Ian, we can come back to you. Is there any other people on this water course that have questions? Graham, I see your picture here. Thank you for joining us.
I have a couple of
concerns?
questions,
Sure.
Mayor Al.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mike, just wondering, in front of that catch basin, do you have to go out into that Walsh to put any sort of grass, waterway or anything like that before that catch basin, or is that just dirt up to that point?
Thank you, Graham.
Yes,
Mike?
there will be grass for roughly 2 meters or so to cut the ground down to the catch basin. It's like a typical fence row width that you would see for farming practice. We will need to install the tile itself, a bigger distance in that to horizontally bring our tile over to the old drain location and connect it. We will need to disturb that area to make sure that the swale and the water is accessing the berm itself in that area. So there might be some disturbance, but the width of grass will be approximately 2 meters or so on the upstream side of the fence.
Okay. I did have a question on the swale, but you answered that before. I guess my big concern with the whole thing, even though Ryan's paying the share of it, just to extend that drain down really doesn't make any improvement for the rest of us. So I just wanted that to be noted. So
Okay.
that's
yeah,
all,
Mike?
Mayor Al.
Yeah, okay, Graham, thanks very much. Mike, you certainly have the opportunity to respond to that last comment, or just let it go at that. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yes,
Okay.
no, I can comment that, the assessments do take that into consideration. The upstream properties, their water uses the drain, but they don't benefit from it. There may be a small benefit to have an improvement for the Walsh property immediately at the fence line, but not upstream of that where the tile goes through the farm. So there still will be there still will be a municipal tile drain upstream servicing those lands, but it will not be affected by this report.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Good, and I'll don't want to miss anyone. Last call for questions from anyone.
Just a concern too, so where the new tiles start, Mike, and the old tile end, like they're in perfect line. And as you expose those, if there's like, do you go in Walsh's to protect or to check on some of those tiles? The work that was done to clean out that drain, there was some excavation done over the existing tile, and there was some damaged tile there. And I'm not sure whether they just tried to put them back together as best they could, or didn't replace them, because I don't think they had tile to replace them with. So that'll be checked on.
Okay,
Yes.
Mike, go ahead.
Yes, that will be checked. We will have to have a sufficiently, or a tile in sufficient condition to actually connect to. And the alignment itself will be kept mostly in line. And if there is a slight angle, we will have to use some sort of prefabricated fitting or cut the tiles. But basically, we are going about 10 meters upstream into the property to get back onto the proper alignment without a large kink or jog in the alignment itself.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Any further questions from property owners?
The outlet of the catch basin, how big an outlet, or what, like the size of the catch basins there, just how big an outlet is out of there into the new tile?
It's coming in.
We're calling for a 15-inch diameter lead.
What was that again? 15-inch? What did?
Yes, that's correct,
15
Ian.
inches in diameter,
15 diameter. Okay.
which is 375 millimeters.
Okay. Just remind council to mute their microphone, please. We're getting some feedback and some background noise here. Okay, again, Ian, any further questions?
I guess not. I'm just concerned about John. Is there this? I'm trying to follow the procedure, the drain improvement procedure. And if I understand it, there's another reading, like if the council approves this to go forward, there's still another chance for John to participate.
There's a first and second reading of the bylaw tonight, not third. And I'll ask Jill is in the best position to clarify that question for you, Jill, if you wouldn't mind the process of any other public comment or presentation before council.
So tonight, staff would be recommending it's the first and second reading to provisionally adopt the engineer's report. And then council, you would then meet in court of revision as that separate body with respect to the assessments. And I see that Greg just popped onto the screen. He has a comment as well.
Good. Thank you, Jill, very much. And Greg, you go ahead. Thanks.
Yeah, and thanks. And through you, Mary Ellen, a question for Mike. Mike, would you have the ability to hear from Mr. Walsh after this session tonight to get his comments with regards to this report?
Yes, I don't mind, getting comments from him. We've attempted to get comments in advance of submission of the report. We did hold an informal meeting with the proposed work and then contacted the owners after, and then actually sent out the draft version of the report as well for comment. But I am more than willing to try to see if there's anything else in terms of comments that can be made, that can be accommodated if possible. If there are things that need revision to the report, the only way for large changes would be to refer the report back to be changed. But I can do that. I can try to see if there's anything that could be addressed.
Okay, that would be great, Mike. That way it mitigates that concern to some extent. And Greg, thank you very much for recommending that. Following the process, Council, the request from those present virtually to add or remove their names from the petition, section 4 only, is being requested at this time.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I think,
Jill?
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that'll just be for, this is an improvement. Is that correct, Andrew? So that's only for section 4
Okay,
type
got it.
drain.
Thank you, Jill. Council, it's our turn now. We finally have our turn. Council, I'll be watching your hands. Any questions you'd like to ask the engineer, please go ahead. Yes, Councillor Vink, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Getting back to the swale, you mentioned it has to be a certain percentage before it's a grass waterway. Does it make a difference on what kind of tillage you have? You have conservation tillage, you have strip tillage, you have no-till, and some people still use the plow, which will be more chance of having erosion. So is that taken into account?
Mike, I'll let you address Councillor Vink directly.
Yes, that is what I'm saying is typical of when landowners report and problems and request us to be putting in grass. So it's based on past experience of what landowners' wishes are. In a very, very large rain event, there may be some topsoil movement, but it is typically to an extent that landowners can live with and don't request anything to be done.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Any follow-ups, Martin?
No.
Okay, thank you. Council, any further questions? I don't see any hands. There's a recommendation before us that the council accepts the engineer's report in reference to the Switzer Drain, McLean-Switzer branch, and refers the bylaw to the bylaw section of the agenda for first and second reading only. If someone would entertain that motion, the chair will acknowledge it.
So moved.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder for that? I'm looking for a seconder. Councillor McGill had his hand up first. Thank you, Mark. Any questions? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Council. We have 4B ahead of us, Council. Facilities and Recreation Master Plan Final. Todd Brown and Dennis Kwan, Monteith and Brown Planning Consultants. If they are with us, Jill, we'll certainly give them the floor and walk us through a fairly long report. And Todd, if you could unmute there, and Dennis, Todd, very nice to see you this morning, gentlemen. Your trade mark has been pretty well fabricated here, and if you could walk us through it, we'd appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and we appreciate the opportunity to meet with council again tonight. As you're aware, this is the second time this document's been in front of council, with the previous time being a draft to test it with you and then bring it out to the public. Dennis is going to walk us through a brief presentation, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you very much. And Dennis, you go ahead. Make yourself comfortable there.
Thank you, Mayor. And just give me one moment here. Just about to share my screen. Okay. All right. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council, and members of the public, and as well as staff. Thank you for having us again tonight. What we want to do tonight is to report back to council really on what's changed since we've met with the group in July. and also to seek approval of the Facilities and Recreation Master Plan as a guiding document for the municipality. As a reminder, the Facilities and Recreation Master Plan is a guide for staff, council, stakeholders, and the public on matters related to recreation, or parks, recreation, and culture. It identifies community priorities and strategies, it identifies community priorities and strategies, and to achieve those priorities over a 10-year period. The master plan has been an ongoing process since the beginning of this year. We've come back to council at a number of key points during the planning process to present our findings along the way. The draft master plan was presented to council in July, and feedback was received from the group at that time. Following that, the draft was posted online, and public feedback was received, which I'll touch on that on the next slide. We've also received comments and feedback from staff as well during that period. And so we've taken all that feedback and we've considered those comments, and where appropriate, we made necessary revisions to the master plan. In terms of the feedback that we've received from the public, there was a desire for updating the park in Wardsville with consideration given to swings, a fountain, and trails. It was also suggested that there should be more activities in Wardsville rather than concentrating the activities in Glencoe. There was also a desire for a diverse range of affordable and structured programs in the municipality to complement what's already being provided by community organizations. There was a comment raised regarding establishing, there's a comment questioning establishing trails on the Glencoe Fairgrounds as well as the Project 2000 site, given that they're not municipally owned. And there was a question raised regarding the impact on taxpayers. I should mention that the master plan does speak to how recommendations will be implemented over the life of the plan. And as part of staff's annual work plans, recommendations would be brought forward at that time with consideration given through the capital budget process, where costs and financial impacts would be determined at that point. So tonight we won't review all the recommendations contained in the master plan. There are over 60 recommendations that have been made, but tonight we wanted to highlight a few of the recommendations that have changed or recommendations that respond to the public feedback that we received, as well as recommendations that we wanted to provide an emphasis on tonight. So some of the recommendations contained in the master plan are ones that would require open dialogue, further consultation, and working closely with community organizations, as well as forming partnerships. And one of those recommendations is the first one that we see on this slide, and that is to involve the Agricultural Society, the Crown Club, and potentially others to explore potential renaming of the fairgrounds and Project 2000 site. And this would also include all indoor and outdoor spaces, including the arena and the pool space, to a name that really encapsulates all activities that take place at the site. And recommendations have also been made regarding creating a trail loop around the site, as well as moving forward with arena improvements. So these improvements really move the site forward in creating a community hub that's not just for Glencoe residents, but for all residents living in Southwest Middlesex. Acquire a site in Wardsville for an indoor facility that could include a fire station, a library, a community meeting space, and supporting amenities. Outdoor amenities would include an out and off-leash dog park, multi-use court for basketball and ball hockey, a skate zone, a playground, walking path, and green space. This recommendation really speaks to the need to relocate the recreation amenities at Littlekin Park due to the historical significance of the site. It also recognizes the fact that Wardsville existing fire station and library, both those facilities are at an advanced age that will require a reinvestment or replacement. And so we believe this is an excellent opportunity to create a community hub in Wardsville that really responds to the desire for more recreation opportunities beyond Glencoe. And looking into Appin, proceed with undertaking parking lot improvements to the Eckford Community Center and engage facility users and others to identify and prioritize space improvements. So this space also functions as a community hub for recreation activity and gatherings in Athens. So it's certainly important for the municipality to continue investing in this space to ensure it's welcoming and inviting, and that it responds to the needs of residents in the area. And the master plan also speaks to recommendations regarding constructing a skateboard zone in Appen Park, as well as a multi-use court for basketball and ball hockey, and an accessible playground, as well as removing the aging washroom building. Develop a playground at Middleman Park. We do recognize that the municipality has been planning a playground at this location for some time, and it's supported by this master plan. It's also recommended that a multi-use court for basketball and ball hockey also be developed at Middleman Park, with additional consultation to identify park features that should also be included at this location. The master plan does include a conceptual trail network that aims to strengthen trail connections in the municipality. Through the master plan process, we certainly heard that there was a strong desire for more trails, and that it was felt that investment in trails should be a high priority. The proposed trail network, it encourages promoting cycling routes as identified in the county's cycling strategy, as well as developing trails within existing and future parks, and connecting trails to key destinations. And in order to achieve the connected trail system, it is required that the municipality work with community partners, landowners, to achieve the public access and establish trail connections. And last but not least, either alone or in partnership with local organizations, optimize the use of municipal and community facilities to offer new program opportunities, certainly ones that are not duplicating what's already available. And we recognize that this is something that the municipality is already working towards to provide more structured programs. And it's certainly something that's supported, as we did hear from the community, that there is a desire for more programs across the municipality. And building upon those community hubs across Southwest Middlesex will certainly help address the programming demand that we heard through this process. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over back to you, Mayor. We'd be happy to answer any questions or take any comments that you may have.
Thank you, Dennis, very, very much. We'll get our screen back, and we'll let our council forward those questions to you and to Todd. Council, through the chair, to one or the other or both. Any questions? Well, yeah, Mike, Councillor Scholdice, go ahead. Oh, Mike, you're muted. If you unmute there, you'll be all set. Good, we got it.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I apologize that my mind is elsewhere tonight,
No.
but I do have a question and a follow-up. I see that there are 3 points in the summary for public feedback, but considerable changes to the recommendations from the report we last received. How exactly did that happen?
Well, maybe I can, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Todd. It's a fairly pointed question. I'm sure you can handle it. Yep.
Yeah, so Dennis can follow up if he feels I don't cover this property, but we listened to council at the last council meeting in July. We then went out to the public and heard what they had to say, as Dennis indicated. And then we reviewed those comments with staff to ensure that sort of changes that we're suggesting to the plan would make sense in the community. So really, ultimately they came through us, but it was as a response to recognizing that perhaps the plan didn't speak clearly enough to some of the things that we were trying to achieve. So as much as some of the recommendations appear to have changed to some degree, some of that information was already in the previous draft. It was just not as explicit as we thought it needed to be, especially in the executive summary.
Thank you, Todd. Dennis, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, Todd, thank you, Mayor. Through you, Todd is absolutely right. And the 3 points that you saw on the slide deck earlier are comments that we heard from the public, but the changes that were made in the master plan in the final version that you have, that it would reflect changes from the public as well as what was heard through the council feedback that we received in July, as well as comments received from staff. And as Todd mentioned, we did do a little bit of restructuring to the recommendations. So the master plan document will, the recommendations will look slightly different, but the end goal of what those recommendations are trying to achieve will have remained the same.
Okay, thank you. Any follow-ups at all, Councillor Scholdice? Yeah, one
Yes,
more. Yep.
yes, thanks. As a follow-up, would these recommendations come back before council, before staff puts time and money into getting prices and formulating reports on them?
I believe that would council do make the decisions. Yes, Dennis, I see your head nodding up and down there. Would you like to have some input there?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. It is a 10-year plan, and as I mentioned before, there are approximately 60 recommendations contained in the master plan. So if it is approved tonight, that does not necessarily mean that the shovel goes in the ground tomorrow or the recommendations get implemented. So in the implementation section of the master plan, it does identify levels of priority for each of the recommendations. So each year, staff will identify a certain number of recommendations that they would like to implement for the coming year. And they will bring each of those recommendations forward where it will be considered through council, and it will be discussed further. And there will be costs identified, and it will be considered through the capital process. And some of the recommendations may require further public consultation as well. So this is certainly not the end of the conversation. We would say it's the beginning of a conversation in a path moving forward for facilities, parks, recreation, and culture opportunities. So there will certainly be more opportunities for dialogue with staff and council and the public, and more discussion.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
And Todd and Dennis, I think perhaps the best analogy is that it is a roadmap for council to follow. And we're delighted. We know that the public have been given every opportunity to have input in this. Not only have the public, but every councillor has had the opportunity to give input if they so wished as well. And we appreciate that. But yes, I'd like to use the analogy that it is not a blueprint, it is a roadmap. And it'll give our municipality a direction over the next decade, and we're pleased with that. Council, we've heard from one council member. Any others? Yes, Councillor Bartlett, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, to either Dennis or Todd. I'm just curious as to how much public input there actually was. I know they had a lot of chance, but I'm just wondering how much the results were.
Yeah, I think Dennis will probably answer that. Numerically, I saw numbers in the report. Dennis, would you like to comment on those?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just looking at the report now. In the master plan, the consultation summary is in section 3 of the master plan. So through the master plan process, we did undertake a number of consultation activities. And of course, through the master plan was undertaken during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we did have to shift some of our consultation process online, but we do feel that that certainly changed the way that we received input, but we certainly did receive input. And I'm just taking a look through the section here. So we had an online community survey where we received 234 responses through the survey. So that's a typical number that we would typically see for a community of this size. And we also undertook stakeholder focus groups with, I believe we undertook 2 stakeholder focus groups where we had 15 organizations represented through those stakeholder focus groups, as well as we met with members of council and key staff. And then we also had that the feedback process when the draft master plan was completed. So we would say we got fairly well received in terms of the number of people who participated in the process and the number of people that we heard from. So we certainly had a number of opportunities for the public to provide feedback, and we felt that we did hear from members of the public who wanted to provide input.
Yes, and Todd, you'd like to add to that? Please go ahead.
Just to add to that, I know that Greg and his team also made sure that advertising of public opportunities was really out there and very noticeable. So even putting up signs along the street to make sure that people were aware of opportunities for the master plan to give their input. It was promoted through social media as well. And so there was, I guess, we tried to eliminate as many excuses as possible to make sure that we got as many people participating as would like to. And so we not only give them the opportunity up front, but also during the testing phase when the draft was done. So Councillor, to answer your question, I think we did as good a job as possible to get as many people engaged as possible. And what we heard was very specific to your community, although at a high level, there were some common themes that we hear in a lot of communities in terms of priorities for things. So trails being a high priority in your community, we hear that in a lot of other communities as well, especially during COVID-19. But I think the word got out there. We engaged anyone who wanted to get engaged. In fact, they could have emailed information to us as well. So we tried to provide as many avenues as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Yeah. Continuing on with questions from council. Councillor Vink, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just Dennis and Todd, just want to make a comment. I'm glad to see that there's some sort of long-range plans for a new fire hall and a library in Wardsville. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, no, I think it's a fairly equitable report, and it's over a number of years, as was implied by the planners. It's a 10-year plan. Council, any further questions? Yes, I'm going to ask Councillor Cowell to go first, followed by Director of Operations. Go ahead, Krista.
Through the mayor, this question is for Greg. Mr. Greg, I know you've executed a similar plan in a previous role. Can you tell us what kind of time frame did you see the succession of most of the points when you had a similar master plan?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Councillor Cowell, and through you, Mayor Allen. The previous master plan that the latest one that I worked on, and Todd, myself had worked on another one prior to that. I mean, it really depends on the priority, and the direction of council. So I can talk about a little bit about the Warwick plan, which was 99 recommendations, and we had that completed in about a 5-year time frame. Some of those items weren't as large as what we're talking about here. I do think that we're also set up a little bit better here because we do have the rec committee that we can vet this plan with to get more comments and more direction as to what we do present to council moving forward as our priorities for recreation and facilities in the near future here. So we need to, like Dennis had mentioned, to set those priorities and then bring that information back to council as part of the budget process, and then have this conversation all over again. And so generally, I don't think there's a huge timeline. I had 99 some recommendations in the previous master plan that we did, and we did it in 5 years. But I would think that, our goal is to get this done as soon as we can, but it is limited to budget as well as the direction of council. So I was going to make the comment here. Hopefully that answers your question, Councillor Cowell.
Yeah, thank you, Greg.
And just my general comment, I would like to, on behalf of the operations team, thank Todd and Dennis. We've had nothing but a professional approach to this all the way through. We did have a steering committee that basically vetted all the information that came back to staff. Everything that we asked for, and a lot of that was based on council's request, was honored by Todd and Dennis. And it has been nothing but a joy to work with both of those individuals. And I am quite enthusiastic about this simply because this is the first master plan that was created for Southwest Middlesex. And it really takes the subjectivity out of, you know, the direction that we're moving in facilities and recreation. When you have a document like this that engages the public at all levels and council at all levels, and gives everybody the opportunity to participate, and this is the end document that we get, you know, I think that's one of the best ways that you can kind of set the future. And again, just on behalf of our steering committee and the operations team, I have always have had a lot of respect for Todd and his group, but you know, to get this expedited to this point as quickly as we did, and this to be on the books for so long, I just think it was, you know, it's a special night for me.
Good. Thank you, Greg, very much. Council, any further questions? I see none. Todd and Dennis, I'd like to reiterate Greg's remarks. Thank you very much. The timing of this plan was very good, particularly with the information of our success with receiving funding from the provincial and federal government on facilities. And so we couldn't ask for better timing on this. Not only do we have a plan, but there's some capital to refurbish some of these facilities as well. So the timing could not have been better. And we're very pleased with that. Council, there is a recommendation before you. The council approve and adopt the Facilities and Recreation Master Plan final as presented. I'll entertain a councillor to make a motion of that. Yes, Councillor Kell, thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Scholdice. Thank you, Michael. And discussion, council? Seeing none, all in favor? Approved unanimously. Thank you very much. So I'm glad, Todd, you stayed on for that, and your comrade there. We are, it's signed, sealed, and delivered now. Thank you very much. Dennis, we're going to miss you guys. We've seen so much of you. So I hope it's not the last time we bump into each other. Thank you. Bye, Dennis.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
Moving on to the consent agenda. Council, I'll read through these. I'm going to just take a very quick pause and look up at my screen to make sure if there's any of these items that you wish to be pulled out of the consent agenda, we can move them to the new business section. August 25th, draft council minutes. 5B, Southwest Middlesex vouchers.
I just had a comment.
Yeah.
I emailed earlier about an edit and I wasn't sure if it had been done. So I'll pull it up now.
Okay.
There was an edit to the minutes of was it done? Okay, cool. Never mind then.
Oh, it was done? Okay, thanks, Kirsta. Repeating 5B, Southwest Middlesex vouchers. 5C, the building report of Southwest Middlesex, first half of 21. Fees collected, 28,000, 4.5 million. Yes, Michael, go ahead. Councillor Scholdice.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I found this report interesting, but I'm just wondering why it's not being presented by our local building official whose name appears on our website.
Just as correspondence, Jill, can you answer that? Occasionally, we do see Arnie at times, but Arnie is there. If you, Arnie, if you'd like to speak to that, or if there's some concerns that the councillor has, Councillor Scholdice, you can direct them to Arnie directly through the chair. Arnie, Jill, I see your hand up first. Go ahead, Jill.
Sure. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, you're wondering why it's the CBO presenting the report as the department head instead of the building inspector? Is that the question, Councillor Scholdice?
Yes, I just thought the one that's listed on our website would be the local inspector, so they would have the hands-on knowledge of it.
Great. And I think Arnie can probably adjust that, but I do expect that as the department head, Arnie's responsible and is the one that would be presenting to all councils. In fact, I think he was sitting with another council just shortly before this meeting.
Okay. Arnie, I don't want to overlook you on that, but we appreciate your services. We realize that It is basically an assessment and revenue report, which is handled by administration. And you're the guy that wears the work boots at times. And but listen, anything further to that, or are you okay with that, Arnie? Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, through the mayor and further to Jill's comments, it is our practice that the department head presents these reports to council. And as chief building official, I do take that responsibility, attend council meetings. We put inspectors' names on websites as a primary reference for your citizens to reach out to, and they would become somewhat of a specialist for each of the municipalities that we represent. But to take the reports, that would be the role of the chief building official.
Okay, thank you. And Arnie, your presence does not go unnoticed at these council meetings. We appreciate it, and you have been at more than you have not. So we do appreciate your presence here.
Thanks.
Minister Clark's letter to the head of council, more homes, more choice. SCRCA, the 2021 June highlights. City of Hamilton, letter to the Premier regarding construction noise limitations. And a resolution from the City of Brantford, the Year of the Garden. Yes, Councillor Cowell.
Can you please pull it out and discuss it later?
Yes, certainly. Be our pleasure. And moving on, we have resolution Trent Lakes re-OHIP eye care. Yes, we have two hands up there, Councillor Cowell and Deputy Mayor Wilkins. Councillor Cowell, I saw your hand first. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if we could pull it out to support later.
And Mary Gay, I'm sure you were requesting the same, were you? That's good. It is important. And thank you very much, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Cowell, for doing that. It's good. So we'll put 5H in there as well. And we'll deal with those, Council, at section number, I think it's 12 in our agenda. We have concluded that, so I'll entertain a motion that the Council for the Municipality of Southwest Middlesex receive the consent agenda on the items with the exception of 5G and 5H that we'll deal with in new business. May I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Bartlett, seconded by Councillor McGill, in order of the timing of the hands that I've seen. Any questions? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 6 on the agenda, Committee of Adjustment. There are none tonight, and Jill, please correct me if I'm wrong. Public meetings, number 7, I have none. Staff reports, we have fire, 8A, there are none. And 8B, and a very interesting report. Jill, if you could lead that off with your administrative report on the Community Improvement Plan applications, we'd be delighted to hear it.
Sure. Well, I don't mind kicking it off. We also have Sheila McCann here as the Economic Development and Communications, but I would say this is a very exciting report to be presenting to council, because it's one of those things where council has approved a plan and it's being put into action, and nice to see some of those things actually come to fruition, because we spend a lot of time organizing it and a lot of council time considering it to get it into place. And Sheila has been so great at helping to move that along, and I'll turn it over to Sheila.
Okay. Sheila, thank you. You have worked very, very hard on this, Sheila, and you're both with your patience and your skill level there. So you go ahead and bring forth the subject to council.
Okay, thank you very much. This is one of the more pleasant reports we get to put forward. I won't spend a lot of time on the details. There's a lot of detail within the report. We do have 4 applications for the CIP funding this year, and all of them do qualify under the program. And if approved by council, it would be an expenditure of $17,798.24 out of our $20,000 budget. So it's 89% of our budget for this year. All applications are for signage and facade improvements. And we, as a committee, feel that they will all be wonderful improvements for the Main Street businesses. They are all located in Glencoe. And we just hope that it will spur others to take on projects in the new year. So I think I will leave it at that for tonight. There is quite a heavy agenda, and I'll take any questions that anybody has.
That'd be great. Yes, lots of them coming forth. Councillor Cowell had her hand up first, followed by Councillor Vink.
I don't have a question. I'm just super excited. This looks amazing. And I'm so thrilled to see that these businesses have decided to invest in our community. So I just wanted to move the motion, move the recommendation, because it looks amazing and it filled me with joy.
You, Krista, you have a look of joy on your face when you made that motion. So that's great. Yes. I'll entertain a seconder for it, and then I'll come back to Councillor Vink's question. Yes, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, for seconding that motion. Councillor Vink, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mayor Allen. Sheila, was there any applications from the other 2 wards?
Through you, Mayor. No, we only received the 4 from Glencoe this time. It could be because it was such a short turnaround for this year. If anyone had a larger project, it would be difficult to complete in the few months that we have left in 2021. One of my hopes is to send out more information to the businesses that qualify and hopefully get that sparked up for 2022.
Yep. Thank you, Sheila. And a good question, Councillor Vink. We made sure that our CIP covered a very broad range, and all areas of the municipality were involved. And councillors of wards, please feel free to call upon your business constituents and suggest to them that monies are available. And that's like planting seeds. And then when the opportunity presents itself, that seed may grow. Yes, Deputy Mayor Wilkins.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'm equally as excited about this as Councillor Cowell is, but I'd just like to mention that I think this was Councillor Cowell's suggestion at the very start. She was the one that brought this forward. So thank you, Krista. I think this is certainly a step forward for our community and hope to see more applications next year. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? Just one I'd like to add. What I like about this too, that it benefits local trades. These participants in this program this time have used local trades, and it benefits us on a socioeconomic element as well by giving local trades a little extra work. And I know that these projects would not have come to fruition had it not been for the community improvement plan. The recommendation is that council approve the recommendation of the Community Improvement Plan Evaluation Committee for the following projects, and they are listed in front of you. It is moved and seconded. I'll call the question. All in favor? Raise your hand. Chris is the first one up. Carried unanimously. All the votes are passing tonight unanimously. The section 2 that follows is the Glen Meadow subdivision. Council, I have some regretful news I have to give upon you tonight. At 6:50 this evening, I received a message that we cannot proceed with this evening. And there was an agreement between 2 parties that does not involve the municipality. We're not waiting for the municipality or anything from our administration. This is outside our realm of governance. It's between the developer and another property owner. And they had an agreement in place that has to be tightened up a little bit. So we will have to defer this. I know that we're all anxious to see the Glen Meadow subdivision be approved. All the technical aspects of it have been looked at, and this is just a piece of the puzzle that we thought was put together between the two parties when in fact we found out it wasn't. And of course, we can't just take bits and pieces of the plan of subdivision, the site plan. It has to be approved as drafted. So over the course of the next few weeks, these two people will get together and hopefully have a tangible agreement. Jill, can you add anything else to that?
Mayor Mayhew, I think you captured it. That's we've been hoping to have everything in place and get this moving on our end. We just need some additional information from the developer to ensure that everything is in place before it proceeds. So we apologize that this came at the last minute, but that's when we were notified that all was not quite ready on their end.
No, I think it was at 6:51 this evening, just 9 minutes before the council meeting, council. But again, I'll just reiterate that staff have worked very hard to put this through, and there have been some delays. We're trying to accommodate the developer and the parties that be as best we can. Okay, we've got that, so we're going to pass on that. Jill, continuing on, the municipal financial indicators, you have some benchmark formulas that you can present to council to give us a health check, a thermometer on our financial sustainability. Would you like to walk us through this?
Sure, that's exactly what they are, Mayor Mayhew. This is somewhat like maybe less exciting than the facilities and recreation master plan and the CIP plan coming to fruition, but like those items, this is part of the strategic plan that council adopted to move forward on, and this would be one of the pillars related to sustainability. So most corporations, private sector will have some type of measures that they look at to help get a picture of their financial health. And this uses information in the municipal context from financial information returns that are submitted to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and lots of different options for certain financial indicators, but we tried to grab a few that provide an overall picture so that when taken together, it can help provide, as I said, a snapshot to council for them to have the context of the historical place where they're at year end, particularly as they move into the budget cycle for next year. So just one more piece of information that will help guide council. And again, I said that there are many different financial indicators that can be used. These can be tweaked as time goes by, but these are some common ones that get used in the municipal sector to help provide this information. So that's what I'm recommending tonight, that these be adopted to meet the strategic plan action item.
Okay, thank you, Jill, very much. Council, are there any questions? Again, this is gives our municipality a health check in regard to finances if we adopt them, and we'll become accustomed to viewing them and working with them. Any questions you'd like to address to Jill through the chair? Seeing none, I'll have someone entertain a motion that council adopt key financial indicators from the financial information returns, including what is before you. A mover and a seconder. Yes, our accountant, Councillor Bartlett, has moved that, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Wilkins. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Item number 4, Jill, very interesting article here, and we thank Councillor Cowell for this as well. The Truth and Reconciliation. Would you like to bring that forward to Council?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. The Truth and Reconciliation Day. So the federal government has indicated that a statutory holiday federally will take place on September 30th, which is recognized as Orange Shirt Day as well. And I coupled this with the direction from Council, as you mentioned, that was received through notice of motion from Councillor Cowell related to a land acknowledgement. So we're just giving a little bit more information about Truth and Reconciliation Day. So what staff are suggesting is that for this year, Council considers supporting the motion that AMO had drafted for its members. So that's within the body of the report, if Council is interested in supporting that. And additionally, consideration of some social media. If the Council supports that, we would put some information out through social media as well. And take some time internally to just better educate ourselves about what that day means and why it's important to take some time. And then with respect to the land acknowledgement, I just had a couple of drafts. Again, as I noted in my report, these are not statements that are meant to be static. And if people are interested in making a land acknowledgement statement, it doesn't have to be exactly the same each and every time. It's meant to be something that really is reflective of what that person is feeling and their connection to the land and the people who have trod on it before them. So I think Councillor Cowell reached out to me just before the meeting and let me know she's also got some recommendations. I think she'd like to read out some consideration of some small tweaks as well. So that's essentially the report that Council consider and provide some direction on those two related areas.
Okay, thank you, Jill, very much. Councillor Cowell, if you have those handy, would you like to commence with those?
Okay, so the first edit, I had a chance to speak with some Indigenous folk, and one of the suggestions that was seen was that when we consider special events, I'm just scrolling down to read where it needs the smidge of an edit. Did you already change it, Jill? Yes, okay, there it is. So right at the beginning, acknowledging that we are meeting on the Indigenous land that has been inhabited by First Peoples from the beginning. In the first draft for consideration at special events, that suggestion was made to be edited. And then with regards to the draft that would be on our website, I got some feedback that we should be acknowledging the different nations specifically. So Caldwell First Nation, Chippewa of Kettle and Stony Point First Nation. So I've also got those edits that I can forward on to Jill to make sure that we are respectful of the Indigenous peoples' cultures themselves. So that's just some of the suggestions I had. And then I'd really love to see us doing a land acknowledgement at the beginning of each council meeting. We do one with the Lower Thames Conservation Authority before every meeting. It's not very long, and it could even be more condensed than this one if we so wished. So I'd like to see that added as well.
Thank you very much, Krista. And Jill, I like your comment on that it's a fluid thing, that it can change. And I think that's very important. And Councillor Cowell, I like the idea of I was going to suggest that as well, that the nations be mentioned in that. I think it has more meaning to our local audience when they hear these names because they're aware of those names surrounding Southwest Middlesex. Jill, do we receive this as information, or do you want a more specific recommendation on this?
So I think if you would like to support the draft resolution from AMO, you could vote specifically on that, and that then helps to support the acknowledgement that of the September, the recognition of September the 30th as that particular day. We can support that through social media. So I think that would be worthwhile giving direction. And then if you want to take a vote on the land acknowledgement piece separately, that would be probably helpful as well.
Okay. I think we'll do it in 2 steps, Council. I don't think it'll take long. So the recommendation of AMO and recognizing the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Would someone move that recommendation? Yes, Councillor Scholdice, and seconded by Councillor Cowell. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote regarding the Day of National Truth and Reconciliation. All in favor? Carried unanimously. And then secondly, the land acknowledgement statement has been put before you. And we know that there are going to be some tweaks on that. You have heard that we will add the nations to that, and that this remains a fluid document that can be modified at the speaker's discretion. And as long as the message is not lost, I would say that we certainly want to make sure that the message is always intact. Would someone move the acceptance of that with the suggestion of edits? Yes, Councillor Cowell.
I'd like to move that we adopt these 2 and that we come back with a condensed version that we can agree upon for our council meetings.
I think that's good. We'll get them in advance and we can all have our own little edit on it and submit them to Jill, and maybe we can come up with a common consensus. I like that motion. Is there a seconder for that? Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? Yes, Michael, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Just for clarity, what nations are we listing?
It'd be Oneida, Chippewa of the Thames,
So it's actually all of the nations there, and it's just a matter of adding the word "and nation" to some of the ones where it's missing. I can forward on the suggestion to you, but that was the recommendation that was made to me from an Indigenous friend of mine when I brought this forward to them. And it wasn't that we're removing anybody, it's just adding the proper way to acknowledge what they call themselves.
Yeah. And that would include the Scanado area I see is in there. They refer to them as the neutral Indians, but the Anawasheban. Anyway, it's very good, a good report. Council, any further questions? I don't see any hands. I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, we've got that. There's no building report. 8C, we're okay there. 8D is finance, parking ticket service agreement. Just remind council, Kristen is going to present this to you. As you know, MEU unit looks after our parking violations, and you certainly know Bill Menzie as our bylaw enforcement officer. I just want council to know that this is the collection aspect of the tickets. It's not the issuing of the tickets. So the services of Bill continue as they always have. This is collecting overdue accounts, so to speak. So Kristen, I'll hand it over to you after that. Go ahead.
Thank you. Our office has undertaken the process of getting access to the ERIS system that the Ministry of Transportation, runs. So really what Warwick is trying to do is just alleviate having to go through that process themselves and have us access. They give us the tickets that have been collected. We access the plate numbers to access the names of the individuals, provide notices to them, and if they don't pay, we send them to the local office so that they're attached to their driver's record so that they collect at the time of plate renewal. So this is not a revenue generating endeavor. It's really just to be a good neighbor.
Okay, yes, and it's another example of working together with other municipalities, and I think that will be a direction that we'll see more in the future. And we Southwest Middlesex does that in many areas presently, and this is another one that we may venture into. Any questions to Kristen through the chair, council? Yes, Deputy Mayor Wilkins, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Not really a question, more about the comment. I believe we should work together with our neighbors. Absolutely. And Kristen, we already do this for North Middlesex, do we not?
We do, yes.
Yes. So it's been calculated that we're not losing anything by helping out our neighbor. Correct?
Yes.
Our ratepayers aren't subsidizing this?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, council, last call for questions. We'll entertain a motion that council authorize the mayor and the CAO to enter an agreement with Warwick Township to provide collection services for parking ticket fines. Is there a mover? Councillor Vink. Is there a seconder? Councillor Scholdice. Last call for questions. Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Kristen, thank you very much for that report.
Thank you.
Interesting subject. Greg, I hope you're still with us because Andrew is with us as well. Operations, the black drain of section 78. Andrew, could you introduce this to council, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back this past summer, I had met with the owner of the property that is highlighted in blue on the map provided in the report. And there was significant standing water in the property. Now, we both acknowledge that we have received unprecedented amount of rain for this time of year. Typically, as we know, summer tends to be the dry time of year in our area. However, upon looking at the drainage situation in the area, it was found that the last time any improvements were carried out on the stretch of drain that is highlighted in green was in 1954. That was when it was originally installed. And to my knowledge, there hasn't been any other improvements in this stretch since then. And the other stretch in red, it was improved in 1981, but nothing beyond that. So it is reasonable that such a request is submitted to the municipality. Now I do want to point out that what I am recommending is that council accepts the request to reconstruct the black drain, at least in part, but from the scoping meeting or the scoping notice, I do want to keep that open because we don't know what the ability to meet or what that may look like in the next coming few weeks or months for that matter. But we will have a better idea of what this project will look like after that. And also I would contact the Lower Thames Conservation Authority for their input as well. And that's where that's what I recommend at this point.
Thank you. Andrew, any questions to Andrew through the chair? Okay, then we have a recommendation that council accept the request to file a section 78, that the drainage superintendent contact the authorities, that a scoping meeting be authorized, and that the drainage superintendent report back to council. May I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Vink has moved it. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bartlett's hand came up first. Last call for questions. All in favor? All opposed? Okay. I think Mark might be frozen there. Yep. Code drain, number 2, Andrew, could you walk us through that, please?
Mr. Mayor, this is somewhat similar to the black drain. Back in the summer, we had received a request to improve the code drain. This drain was installed in the 1950s as well. And to my knowledge, there weren't any further improvements carried out on this drain. A few maintenance projects here and there to patch holes. There's also a fairly large section that's broken in not that far from the outlet. However, given the fact that there's a request for improvements, it doesn't make sense to carry out large-scale maintenance project to this at this point. So it is at this point as well, similar to before. It is hard to say exactly what we'll be able to do, so it's either a scoping meeting or a scoping notice to gather a better idea of what this project will look like, if it will extend any further. I do want to point out that since I had submitted this, the map is somewhat accurate, but there are areas that could be improved, but it does capture a general idea of what drain looks like, and it's a reasonably small watershed. So at this point, I do recommend that council does accept the request, and that I will reach out to Lower Thames Conservation Authority and also involve the watershed for some form of scoping measure.
Thank you, Andrew. Questions to Andrew on the code drain? Council?
I'll move the recommendation, Mayor May.
Thank you very much. A seconder for that. Councillor Scholdice, thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Andrew. You're not done yet. The Sutherland Drain, section 78.
Thank you again. This is for appointment. Background, this was the last engineer's report that we have on files from 1977. There have been multiple maintenance projects carried out. I brought this to council on May the 2nd for acceptance, and I had sent out notices to the drain in order to get a better idea of what this project will entail. At this point, the project looks like it will be isolated to the highlighted property on New Biggin, and can't see the other road, but we did talk about it in the last council meeting. So at this point, I do recommend that the engineer will be appointed under section 78 for improvements, more than likely closure of this portion of the drain.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Council, any questions in regard to the Sutherland Drain? Yes, Martin, go ahead.
Mayor Allen, just want to make sure this is the right location. This is on Heineman and Tates, is it?
Yeah, Andrew was just checking his maps.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, New Biggin and Tates.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, sorry, yeah, New Biggin and Tates, yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. I have the recommendation before you, council. Is there a mover and seconder? Councillor Cowell has moved it. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bartlett has seconded the motion. Questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? All opposed? Carried. I think Mark's still frozen there. Andrew, we have a tender on the Mcfarland Drain Swan Culvert. Could you walk us through that?
Yes, thank you, sir. This was a project that went to council through the normal process of Section 78, and there were tenders that were sent out on August 23rd, and the tenders were opened on September 1st. I do want to bring the attention to council that the estimate for this project is $19,600. Now this is somewhat unique in that the lowest tender was A+ Excavating at $16,700. However, through conversations of myself and the engineer to fully understand, make sure that the contractor understood the terms of the contract, he did withdraw his bid, and as a result, the next lowest is Edgar Excavating with the amount excluding HST of $20,700. So it is my recommendation that council accepts the tender amount from Edgar Excavating College, amount of $20,700.
Thank you, Andrew. We have heard the recommendation. Council, are there any questions to Andrew? Failing which, I'll entertain a motion to accept that tender. If I can have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Martin Vink has moved it. As a seconder. A seconder. I hope you can hear me. Yep. Deputy Mayor Wilkins. Last call for questions. All in favor? Motion's carried. Andrew, we're on the Frederick Marsh tender, number 5 of your report. Go ahead, please.
Thank you once again. As you can see, the submitted bids, and it was described in the report submitted by Street and Associates on April 26th, and the tenders were issued August 23rd with the opening September 1st. And the engineer's estimate was $36,700. The lowest bid was McNally Excavating at $41,000, excluding HST. And it is my recommendation that this project, it's an enclosure and also reflected by the engineer, as you can see part of the report, that the council accepts McNally Engineering's bid. McNally Excavating's bid.
Thank you. Council, any question on the tender for the Frederick Marsh Drain? Seeing none, would someone move the recommendation that the tender be accepted? Thank you, Councillor Cowell. Seconder? Seconder for the motion? Councillor Vink. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried. Mark, it's good to have you back. You kind of froze up there for a minute. The Dealman drain tender is the last one there. Andrew, if you'd like to present that, please.
Yes, thank you. Now, I do want to go into some background on this project. As you can see, the engineer's report is dated 2018. And the tenders were originally issued of that year, and the project had been slated to begin as soon as possible. However, as council can probably remember, report that I had brought to before them November, December of last year with regards to the issues with CN, the project was slated to begin in December of this past year. However, it was canceled. And as a result, there was another meeting that was held with the where notices were sent to people on the drain in order to get some ideas, discuss what the next step could be. And from this meeting, it was determined that waiting to see what would happen with CN was not necessarily the most preferred route given the circumstances. And so what it is recommended at this point, if I do draw your attention to the map that's provided, the portion of the drain that is being proposed for construction at this point is in orange. And it will start at the CN tracks outside of the CN property and go downstream. And this would provide some level of drainage, some level of service to the petitioner. However, as you can see, the blue dotted line upstream from there would have to wait until some form of resolution could be found with CN and our municipality and other municipalities. And principally, it just doesn't make sense to build a drain and stop it at the tracks. Basically, it would move water downstream and it would stop at the tracks. So that's where you can see the dotted line includes work under the tracks to be completed in the future. And there was only one tender that was submitted to the municipality, and it is recommended by myself and the engineer who wrote the report from Spreet and Associates that council accepts McNally Excavating's bid at $33,500. And for your own reference, see that it is over the engineer's estimate. However, it is under the 133% threshold that we would have to have another meeting with the engineer. Now, principally, the reason why it was over the engineer's estimate, because those numbers are from 2018. There's been a lot of increase of costs of materials since then. So given the circumstances, this is what we believe to be the most reasonable approach at this time.
Thank you. Yes, and Jill, if you can add to that, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew, for that report. I guess just in short, you're continuing to reach out to CN. I know that you've had recent communications that you have sent out to try to continue and encourage participate through the Drainage Act as we are required. And council will be aware that, we're also trying to work with OMAFRA and other municipalities to make sure that this common issue where municipalities have municipal drains that interact with railways, that we can try to come to some type of resolution. So we're continuing on that side as well. But the long and short of it, Andrew, I think this is the request of the landowner who petitioned for this drain in the first place. So we're trying to honor that and work with them to move this along as best that we can at this point, correct?
Yes, that is correct. We weighed the options. We tried to look at the different scenarios. We felt that given the circumstances, we could continue to wait, which would open the municipality up to an appeal to the referee for drainage. We could do something, and this was the route that we went. Yes, there is that possibility for an appeal to the referee. However, it is more than likely that we would have a favorable outcome, given the fact that we are trying to do something for the petitioner, opposed to continuing waiting, which we really don't know exactly when we'll have that resolution, but we do continue, as Jill said, to engage with CN for that resolution. as soon as possible.
Sounds good. And council will certainly bring that to the attention through delegations at future meetings with ministers. Thank you, Andrew. Questions on this to Andrew through the chair? Seeing none, the recommendation is before you. Would someone move that? Thank you, Mark. And a seconder for that, please. Councillor Cowell. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Number 7, operations restructuring review. Greg, did you want to walk us into that one?
Yes, and thanks, Mary Ellen. I'm at home tonight with the dog, so I'm hoping that I don't get interrupted. And
oh, no problem.
I sometimes can't.
We can handle it.
Yeah, sometimes I can't control if somebody walks down my road or drives down my road. They're very protective. So, Jill, you'll have to help me put my PowerPoint up on screen. All right, you can start on the next slide if you wish. And thank you, Council, for letting me having this opportunity. The operations department is made up myself as the director of operations, the drainage superintendent, the roads and utilities supervisor, the facilities and recreation supervisor, and our administration staff that support that whole particular group. That would involve 2 or 3 different individuals in the admin office, whether it's in water, it could be in transportation, could be in garbage collection, or it could be in facilities and recreation. Next slide. So I will take council back a little bit because there has been some changes in this particular that sort of were done just before the restructuring was done, which now make up that particular department. So if you do recall, we did a couple of years ago, we did have a utilities and drainage superintendent. That was a combination position. Council approved the utility duties. They were transferred to the Ontario Clean Water Agency. That drainage superintendent's position basically came just to drainage superintendent's position, which serviced the service contract was out 2 days a week to Adelaide Metcalf and 3 days here with us. The public works supervisor was a new position which handles all public works operations on a daily basis, including supervisory duties for all utilities. Next slide. I don't know where. Can you change the next slide, Jill? Where she went.
I think that is the next slide. Drainage superintendent.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay,
Yep.
so I got it. So, all right. So I'm just going to kind of step through. The drainage superintendent itself was responsible for 800 municipal drains. The position directs the daily operation of the municipal drain program, including maintenance improvements and Section 4 requests for new drains. Works with residents in answering questions and giving advice in all drainage matters. I will mention that Andrew has been extremely successful in completing all the backlog maintenance requests and associated work that was on file prior to him starting, which there was an extensive list. Andrew continues to process drain requests on a high volume, and you can see that at tonight's meeting. And he basically provides an excellent service level on a daily basis to residents. This is not an easy job. He's dealing with a fair number of people. He's dealing with process, and he's dealing with, getting jobs done so that, people that have stormwater issues or drainage issues can move on in their lives, and they don't have to worry about getting rid of water from their property itself. Next slide. I also pointed out, we have, Andrew's done a great job in getting this particular department in order, but every department has challenges on a daily basis. Certainly council is aware of some of the challenges like the Switzer drain. Certainly there was some conversation with regards to railways and their participation in the Drainage Act, and how that is going to sort of roll out in the future. There is a large network of drains, so it does require a fair bit of homework. Like some of these drains can be back to the 1950s, so it's kind of interesting to see some of the old plans and drawings and stuff that we do have on file. But it is a it is a real task to sort of do an investigation on each drain and then make proper communications and expedite the process of getting this work done. The Wardsville Stormwater Master Plan implementation certainly is a challenge for us and has been a challenge for the community of Wardsville for many years. Just over the last months, we do see a fair bit of moving forward with this. I attended the first outlet meeting down on Ontario Street, and I was extremely, satisfied with all the people that showed up and their ability to understand what the stormwater issues were in Wardsville and what the associated solutions were. So, and again, today had very good conversations with a couple of individuals up in Wardsville with regards to the two outlets the council has basically asked us to move ahead with. I will just mention that the first drain that council will see will be the outlet drain at the base of Ontario Street. That particular area was chosen simply because of that's where the majority of problems have happened because of the lay of the land there. And we do own property that extends out to the water, out to the river. So this was an area, plus there are two particular developments that are sort of staging in that area. And if they had legal outlets to get rid of their stormwater, we would see those developments move quicker than slower. I have this in every one of our challenges. I mean, this particular community of Southwest Middlesex is growing and is growing at a very fast pace at this particular point. And I mention that because, when you put together, a budget for, what service levels you want, that's based on some of the past history that we have. Some of this growing community, and certainly in speaking with the economic development officer, if we're growing at 4% at this particular point, that wasn't accounted for, in our budget moving forward from last year. And it is a challenge. It's a challenge for every department because with the growing community comes a lot more contacts and a lot more work in the community. So it is important that we make that point and that we try to keep up here because, whether it's the drainage department or it's public works or it's facilities and rec, I mean, our goal is to service the residents of Southwest Middlesex in a quick and efficient manner, and that we treat everybody equally and fairly right across the board. There's no doubt that, over the past 2 years, COVID-19 has been a huge issue. The pandemic has made us make changes. We've become more digital, that type of thing. It's also affected the small contractor and the contractors that we usually deal with. So it is a challenge for the drainage department to get work done at times. Certainly, we may be coming out of some of that now, but that always has been a challenge through the pandemic. Next slide. So we get into public works. The public works supervisor will mention that this particular position, and Rob, he's done, in my mind, he's done an excellent job, similar to Andrew. It is a new position as a result of the restructuring. The particular duties responsible for the day-to-day operations of the public works department, including roads, utilities, and stormwater. The position works daily with the crew leader for service delivery on every level. And the position also supports the capital development program, obtaining costs and material information, as well as the project management of ongoing capital projects that are happening in the field. This particular position also supports all the work that is being completed by Aqua. And, Rob has established an excellent service level. And this position has a very high level of contact with the community. So it is important to have somebody there that that knows what's happening and understands that service delivery is extremely important to the residents of the municipality. So some of the challenges we have, I mean, I just mentioned one, which is basically locates. So this particular department has done about 2,600 locates versus 250 last year. So that is a huge issue when it comes. We've had 2 individuals that have been doing locates consistently for this last 6 months, and can take us a little bit previous to that itself. And that has to do with all the utility companies getting fiber in the ground. And again, this position suffers just a little bit more when it comes to a growing community, but sometimes is a little easier to understand. So if I did talk about the fact that we have 2 staff people that are tied up every day doing locates in the field, those 2 staff people didn't do that 2 years ago, or even a year and a half ago, or a year ago. Our community's growing now. And I would just take one household, for instance. If it's a new home, the new home needs a meter. The new home needs to be hooked up to water and sanitary. The new home needs all the information transferred and created at the main office with regards to meters and all that type of stuff, as well as they need carts delivered for their garbage collection. So that's just one home. If you throw in as many homes as we're dealing with, you can just maybe try to understand the pressures and on this particular department. Because even 2 years ago, I don't think anybody could have foreseen the amount of development that we're dealing with right now in this community. And they are also strapped with, doing all this work in a pandemic and trying to access contractors. Some of them we can't access like we have in the past, but it has been a challenge. And, I got to commend Rob and Burton and the staff in Public Works, because they just put their head down every day and go about their business, and always there when we request them to be there. An example of that would be the 2 major water leaks that we had on Glendon Ave just over the last 6 weeks. And, to see them out there at 11:30 or a quarter after 11 at night, fixing a water leak on a county road, it's unbelievable. They worked all day and continued to work just so residents could carry on with their normal home activities. Next slide. That takes us to the other position that has happened as a result of restructuring, which is the Facilities and Rec Supervisor. Alex came to us as part of this particular restructuring plan and has done an excellent job reacting and planning this particular team on a daily basis. The responsibility for the department and for this particular position is the day-to-day operations of all the facilities and rec department throughout Southwest Middlesex, includes all our facilities, everything from, our park areas to the arena to the pool, public gardens, flower basket programs, play equipment, all our parks, cenotaphs, and all the service delivery aspect of what they go through every day. The position leads and supports a team that offers 7 days a week service to our residents. This is new to the restructuring. This wasn't in place before, but the particular department is staffed 7 days a week to make sure that we can pick garbage up in all our communities and make visits to all these particular communities on the weekends. So some of the challenges we faced, and this is all new to us, but as far as the program is concerned, but even if we went back 3 years ago, we saw a new library that was built. We just have a new daycare center that was built. These are all extras that have been added to this particular group of individuals in this department, and they've responded very well. One of the areas that's been very challenging to us is understanding the scope of the program, because it's ever changing. So, there's been so much talk about weeds and, weeds in the downtown. And I think this particular department has taken a little bit of a hit when it's come to weed growth in the downtowns and on county roads, but it really isn't their responsibility. If it's a road's responsibility, then it's going to end up in Public Works. Certainly is an operational responsibility. but certainly they are responsible for weed growth and that type of thing around our facilities, in our gardens, etc. But not necessarily weeds that are growing up next to a vendor's building in a downtown. So that particular thing has been very difficult because the scope has changed. And the other thing that has hurt us a little bit is that that was a weird noise. But anyways, I just heard that, has been, since the program has been changing. If you even went back a couple years ago, there was a fair bit of community involvement in the program. And through COVID, it's been very difficult to have that. But this particular group of individuals have responded, and they're doing their best every day to make the community look nice and to continue to run this facilities and rec program. So we are dealing with the new program, and we're all learning as we go. It's not that there isn't experience there. There's a huge amount of experience in the department. But some of the things that we learn, come from the past, and we find them out and we set them into the program and in place to resolve the issues itself. We've had a huge challenge with equipment. That's everything from the lawnmowers that we had to the pool heater situation that we had to the pumps at the pool. We had issues with the splash pad as well. These are all things that I have no idea what's happened in the past and don't really want to comment on it. But when we look at the equipment, some of the equipment isn't industrial enough or commercial enough. We are dealing with some residential equipment with the amount of stuff that we're dealing with. So we do have a plan to move forward. An example would be like, we just don't have the proper equipment to look after diamonds. And that's something that has to happen. We have one grass cutter, a small grass cutter that we use, and that needs to be addressed as well. So it should be more of a commercial type unit. So it doesn't take us 7 hours to cut Project 2000 site. That site can be cut in at least half that time or less. So, and certainly, the challenges moving forward, and certainly with the situation we have with the provincial government right now and vaccinations, this is going to be something that really affects this department moving forward with COVID-19 and access to public facilities and vaccination checking and contact tracing checking. These are all things that have been downloaded from the provincial government to us. And, we're going to have to make some decisions here moving forward to make sure we have these buildings staffed so that we can properly check people coming in to the building to make sure that they're vaccinated and that we can provide the required legislative information to the health units if they ask for it. So I thought I would mention a little bit about capital programs, because we've always come up with these huge capital lists, and then it tend to be that not everything got done. So many of the facilities and rec capital programs were set aside to hear and go through the facilities and rec master plan process, which was great. But just some of these programs that we're working on now will give you some idea of what has been accomplished by the operations department when it comes to capital. And those would include the new water line, the Glencoe lighting project, roof replacement, the salt shed in Glencoe, the replacement of vehicles in both departments, bridge and culvert replacement, the Main Street water line, which I've got down there twice, which I don't know why, but certainly the child care center, the Glencoe arena renovations, the roof replacement of the historical building, deck improvements at the Glencoe train station, which is ongoing right now. One of the items that's been on the list for many years has been the heritage sign replacement. Those signs are now created, and they are in the department, and the department right now is going through the process of getting the new signs put up. We have the downtown beautification. All the new benches are put up in throughout the municipality now, and all the garbage receptacles have been put out. We have the ongoing HVAC and roof replacement at the municipal office, the relocation of the crosswalk and the line painting capital that's going to happen in the downtowns, and certainly the improvements to the arteritas, which are ongoing, which will include some new signs, as well as those particular areas are actively being used by by the library to run some of their educational programs at this particular point. So this isn't a comprehensive look at every capital program, because I can throw in there the modeling, you know, the draft master plan, or the master plan itself. Those are all things that, you know, this is just sort of a little snapshot of the amount of work that's going on in the operations department. So when I asked, you know, because this always becomes an interesting thing that when, you know, people ask, well, what do they do? Well, for this particular next 3 slides, you know, I did ask the facilities and rec supervisor to provide me with, you know, the basic schedule and what goes on in the department on a regular day. So that's what he's done. So we can flip through the next 3 slides. I'm sure there will be questions about that, but this covers everything from watering flower baskets downtowns to picking up garbage to cutting all the properties that we cut, working with contractors, working with you know, all our grass cutting contractors, and, you know, all our grass cutting ourselves, plus responding to complaints. But it's very comprehensive. So hopefully it was good reading. Next slide. And I'll do the next slide. So that's the end of what they would go through in a normal day in that particular department with the current staffing that we have. You know, I follow this and you know, Alex has done a great job of bringing that team together and getting them out there 7 days a week to be in the community and you know, to try to keep things clean and keep, you know, grass cut and gardens weeded, etc. So I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the recreational coordinator position, which was part of the restructuring process as well. Ashley has come into the municipality and has done a great job for us. This particular position reports to the facilities and rec supervisor. The position is responsible for the planning, development, facilitation, promotion, and evaluation of all sport, recreation, special events, healthy living, and leisure programs in the community. And the position works closely with the economic development communications officer for message delivery. I just thought I would throw in some of the things that went on during the August calendar, which included, you know, tennis clinics for youth and adults in the Glencoe area at the tennis courts there, where a pro was brought in. And this was a great program. People showed up and had a great time learning how to play tennis. And to be honest, most of the people were pretty good tennis players. So the pro that did the instruction that day was surprised that there were that many good tennis players. So they expected to be teaching more rather than doing more of the drills. So that worked out great. We've had yoga for beginners, chair yoga, fitness classes for adults, some mixed dance classes, children's fitness, chemistry kids, Zumba, the fitness boot camp, classes on painting. And in late September and early October, we have now scheduled 2 outdoor movies, which are being supported by Enbridge, I believe. And those will happen at the ag site in Glencoe. So they will be very interesting. They're outdoor movie theaters, so you can come in your car and have outdoor movies to watch. So I think this is just a really good snapshot of the success that Ashley's had bringing the community together, getting these instructors and scheduling these type of activities so that people can enjoy them. Most all the activities that we are participating in are revenue neutral, where we do pay the instructor, and then the number of participants in the program, that particular fee is split up so that if we hypothetically paid a yoga instructor $100, we would take, if we took 10 people, they would each submit $10 for that program. So there's no cost, but it really does provide excellent programming for the people and gives people an option to participate in sort of coordinated programming from the municipal end. Very pleased with the facilities and rec master plan approval tonight. It is the document that you know, will set the table for the next 10 years and basically have set out the direction that council wants to go with regards to facilities and recreation moving forward. Gardens, I couldn't speak tonight if I didn't talk about gardens. I mean, currently the facilities and rec department is maintaining 66 garden spaces within the municipality. These are located throughout the municipality. They vary in size from very large to small pot gardens. And certainly the network that was created was a network that took many, many years to create through Community in Blooms. There's no doubt. I mean, Community in Blooms had done an outstanding job in this community in the past. You know, if you look at what they did, the actual corridor that was created with the gardens was created for reasons. They had extremely, you know, the volunteer complement was excellent. And, you know, there was no doubt that there was a whole lot of work that went into these particular gardens. This has been somewhat challenging for the department, there's no doubt. You know, it is very difficult when you had a dedicated volunteer group in the community that was totally committed to Community in Blooms and sort of the national inspection of what they had created, you know, to where we are today, which is in a pandemic, and really trying to keep these gardens in great shape, you know, sort of balanced against what was done in the past. Sometimes it's difficult, but I do commend the group for moving forward on a daily basis with these. And as you've seen in the regular day-to-day schedule that goes on, we do visit these particular areas on a regular basis now. And, you know, our goal in the future is to, you know, try to get up to that level if we can. But, you know, that may take more of, you know, some more resources to get to that point. And we'll certainly have those conversations in budget time. Garbage receptacles. I mean, we currently service 45 garbage receptacles locations right across the municipality. So this includes all the hamlets within Southwest Middlesex, and all garbage is removed and picked up biweekly at these locations, and probably a little bit more frequent in our areas of large use, you know, especially in areas that are next to like Tim Hortons and that type of thing. So, but it is a real chore to get to these particular areas, collect this garbage, put new units in place, and then take it back and wash everything off and get everything ready for the next round of garbage collection. Equipment, the facilities and rec departments have many challenges. The lawn mowing equipment, I did mention that before. You know, we need proper equipment. I mean, you know, my father taught me anything in this world was, if you got proper equipment, you're going to do a good job. If you don't, you're just kind of, you know, not going to be it's not going to respond the greatest, or you're going to break your wrench. So, you know, we need to review this, and I will be presenting something through capital as well as operations to address this moving forward in the future. The pool heater itself, I don't really have to say too much about that. That pool heater was so outdated that, you know, we couldn't even find a contractor to work on it. So it has been replaced now and is doing an excellent job. And as we did, we split that unit up into 3 so that local people could come and work on that for us. Pool pumps was exactly the same thing. We had a whole lot of challenges with pool pumps. Part of the problem was that there wasn't a lot of preventative maintenance done on this stuff. And we now have that in shape. And I got to credit Alex and Mark, because they spent days and days and days with all this stuff trying to get this this department moving forward and to get that pool open so that people could come and have a great time. And I will tell you that, you know, the amount of good comments and great comments we got from people with regards to that pool operation this year should be attributed to every lifeguard that worked there, as well as Ashley, who put together that particular program there, and Alex and Mark, who took care of the facility itself, which was not in the greatest shape. Vehicle damage. We inherited some of our vehicles with damage to them. So, you know, we met as a group, and these particular vehicles were fixed because it was felt by the team that they did not want to drive around with trucks that had dents in them, you know, and tailgates that were all dented up. And, you know, we did move forward to get a better looking department. And that's something that we did immediately in taking over the department. We had a splash pad that was operating without 3 features. So that's just a no-no for me. You can't have a full splash pad there, and, you know, only half the features work. So Alex did a great job of getting those energized and all hooked up. And that splash pad was extremely popular this summer. I had mentioned diamond grooming equipment. We're going to have to look at that one as well. Generally, a lot of our equipment is outdated, and it did lack some preventative maintenance and programming in the past. And I think you've seen from the regular day-to-day routine that Alex has in place that this particular equipment is now preventative. It does get preventative maintenance. But I can tell you that lawnmower that we have that we're supposed to be cutting grass with has been down 3 times and is currently down right now, and trying to get this thing fixed again. It's just been nothing but a headache, but we're moving ahead. So interdepartmental communication, this is something that, I just sort of, I look at this every day and watch these people work together. They're producing a more efficient operation in my mind. And certainly if we're borrowing a backhoe from Public Works to work in facilities, we're saving the residents of Southwest Middlesex money. And I continue to see Alex, Rob, and Andrew work together on a daily basis, whether it's in a field, where one of Rob's staff is helping Andrew camera drain, or it's, a backhoe operator helping the facilities and rec people clean up an area. That kind of stuff is happening on a daily basis and is extremely important to this restructuring. Development. As I've mentioned many times, I would like to have somebody sit at my desk every day and go through all the development stuff that we have going on, because it is, it is just growing and it's continuing to grow. It's not something that's stopped. It's occurring in all levels of the municipality and in all areas of the municipality. If we had better water supply in Appin, it would be happening in Appin right now too. But we have an ongoing subdivision development going on in Melbourne. We have a serious development happening in Glencoe, and many groups staged at this particular point as well. And Wardsville is seeing the same kind of activity which is occurring. So, this is something that we're dealing with every day, and we're reacting to. But could we foresee all of this happening to us? I don't think anybody could. We certainly realized that we were in for something when all the infill lots in our areas were starting to get filled. But we're seeing that same thing in Wardsville happening right now, where the infill lots there are going to fill up. So people are going to go through the process and start putting houses on these infill lots in Wardsville. And the next step to that will be the major developers, which we're working with 2 different groups up there right now. And I had mentioned this before, just quickly, that, it is hard to see when you're talking development, but if we're growing at that particular pace, it is easy to feel. And certainly if I had Rob Cole here tonight, he would tell you all about this, because if we're doing that level of locates, that's affecting his operations in his department. If we're delivering carts and meters and all this type of stuff to get houses hooked up, this is affecting our departments. So we continue to put our head down. We continue to try to provide a high level of service for the community. But does everything go perfect every day? No, it doesn't go perfect every day. But, I have to commend that particular group and all the groups, because they respond to our requests and, what we need every day. Next one. So, all this has been occurring through a global pandemic. And I think at times people forget this, but, we are challenged because of the restricted work environment every day, with the number of trucks, with the number of people in trucks, the number of contractors we're dealing with, et cetera. So, we've had to change some of our own stuff. We've gone digital with Citywide, which has helped us out a huge amount. That particular part of the program, we would have never been able to do the number of locates that we've done if we did not have the Citywide program, because it's done all digitally and it's done in the field, where our staff have tablets in the field and they can respond to our requests immediately. So that, that's just one example. But, when we made this council made the choice to move with the curbside cart program, which has just been an excellent new service for the residents of the municipality. That when you get new homes and that type of thing, it does require a fair bit more work than what you can foresee. And, we don't have a choice. We have to do the work. So it's a game of planning, and it's a game of good communication between the team. And you know, I speak with, and we're on the line every day to try to deal with the issues that affect all our departments. And you know, the group is extremely progressive, and their staff understand that the service delivery is extremely important to council and to the residents of the municipality. So the only other thing I will just say generally is that, you know, typically you would in a community like this find that, you know, there are groups out there with volunteers that will assist the municipality in one form or another. A perfect example would be, you know, when we did pose the question to other municipalities on what level of volunteerism they have in their communities. They're all experiencing a drop in volunteerism, you know, from COVID. There's no doubt people are in their homes, so they're not out volunteering. So that has been consistent among municipalities. And what I'd like to see, you know, once we get, you know, back into normal life is that, you know, through the facilities and rec department, that we engage people in the community to be partners with us in the delivery of certain parts of our program. And that has happened in Southwest Middlesex in the past at a high level. And we would like to get back to that at some point. But it is a challenge because of the pandemic itself. So I will end off with questions, and certainly appreciate Mary Ellen the opportunity to present this tonight. I will just mention to council that I think every day I deal and Jill deals with councilors and their concerns, questions that they get from residents and ratepayers. We try to do an immediate investigation, an immediate job of responding to councilors and to those individuals that have contacted them. That is a very high level of service. I think everybody around the table that goes through this every day with us understands that. That is the same level of service that's being delivered to the residents of this municipality. And there are times, yes, where somebody may not enjoy the answer that they get from us. But it doesn't mean that when somebody leaves us a message or somebody needs us, we're immediate in our responses. And I think all the councils around this table would understand that, because that's exactly what happens at the council level as well. So again, Mary Ellen, I appreciate the opportunity to present this tonight, and certainly I'm available for questions.
Oh, thank you very much, Greg. It's a full plate that you have. There's no question about it. And I know that I take concerns to you multiple times per day. So, they are handled very expeditiously. Council, any questions that you would like to put before Greg? And this, of course, is just being put forth to council for information. Councillor Vink, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, to Greg, very detailed report. I was just wondering about culverts. There was no mention about culverts. We have a bunch of large culverts. I know there's one in Eckford, I think was probably put in the 1960s. Are they being checked? And also you mentioned about the 2 water leaks on Glendon. I understood that Aqua looks after water leaks. And also, didn't we just buy a new lawnmower not that long ago?
Through you, Mary Ellen, I certainly give a shot at these questions. We have an ongoing inspection of our culverts and bridges right now. That has to be done every 2 years. It's legislatively driven, and that is happening right now in the field. So that one is not hard. So they will, you know, basically that particular type of inspection is a condition assessment of all our bridges that fall under our OSIM guidelines. And then there will be recommendations that come from that as part of the asset management program, and through the asset management program back to council to address our worst case bridges and culverts. So if there is one from 1960 and it's got a, you know, it needs to be replaced, that will be identified during the inspection process, and that information then will be presented back to council. Sorry, Martin, your second question.
As far as the water leaks on Glendon,
yes.
Greg, I understood that Aqua. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, and through you, Mary Ellen, appreciate it.
I understood Aqua looks after that.
Yeah, so it always is a combination because it was on a county road, and we really didn't get, we got very limited response from the county. Our roads department was brought in that particular case to assist Aqua with road control. And if they needed materials, etc., for those particular leaks. Typically, Rob would be involved directly with Aqua with these leaks, and it is his job, and he does a great job at this, of bringing in his resources to deal with those issues. Now, in the first one, the OPP had to assist us because we were on a very busy road. You know, when you have a 90-kilometer-an-hour road and it's at night, you know, we don't have that type of light, so we had to have the OPP come in. The second one was much more of a major leak and went on to 11:30 at night, you know, from 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So yes, we did have traffic control there, that type of thing. These were leaks that occurred on the county road, and they occurred under the county permit. And, you know, we were kind of left to deal with these because it happened to be, you know, a water line that's used by Southwest Middlesex residents. Now, I will add to that, you know, we are on the cusp of entering into an agreement with ATEL for the installation of fiber in our community. And we've held back on that a little bit until we could get these fees together for both water leaks, including aqua fees. So we've done that calculation, and we will be going back to ATEL and DTS, who is the contractor, and getting those costs reimbursed back to the municipality. So in those two particular cases, that had nothing to do with our residents shouldn't have to pay anything. And that's the process that Jill and I are going through with ATEL right now. Your third question?
Was the lawnmower? I thought that we purchased a new mower fairly recently.
Yeah, I don't know if it was fairly recently, but I mean, it could have been, you know, Mary Gay may know better, you may know better, Martin. It certainly wasn't purchased during my time, but it's not the type of mower that you would use in a commercial or an industrial type setting. We need mowers that can, fine cutting mowers that can cut, fields and grass. And it shouldn't take us 7 hours to cut the Ag Society property. And, the problem is when you use that type of mower, those mowers are designed for residential use. They're not designed for the commercial use that we would put them through, cutting grass 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, or 6 days a week.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Any further questions from council? We're just looking at the time here. We want to try to get done by curfew. Yes, Councillor Scholdice, followed by Councillor Cowell.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'm just wondering why we are receiving this report now. I imagine staff is quite busy, and given the next item on the agenda, this appears to be preemptive. I'm
not sure whether the extent of that. It's been a 1 year anniversary since this was struck, and I don't share your opinion. The chair does not share your opinion. Perhaps others do, but Greg.
I'll let you, Alan, through you, I'll let Jill respond to that one.
Okay, go ahead, Jill. Yeah, I'm sorry I missed your hand there, Jill. Yeah, go ahead, Jill.
Yep, through you, Mayor Mayhew, to Councillor Scholdice. I had spoken with Greg in July to request that he provide an update to council in the context of just receiving a regular update as to what was going on overall in the operations department. So we had already decided September was the time that report would be prepared. And in fact, I had spoken to Councillor McGill when he made his notice of motion as well to let him know that was coming. So certainly not preemptive with respect to Councillor McGill's notice of motion. I had already advised him that this would be coming.
Okay, thank you, Jill, for that. I'm sure this report is certainly beneficial to us. It comprises a significant part of our budget in all areas, and I found the information useful. Any further questions from council? Failing which, I'll entertain a motion that we receive Greg's report for information. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Mark McGill and seconded by Councillor Doug Bartlett. Questions? All in favor of receiving the report? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Greg, very much. A lot of work. We're done that. We're on number 9 of the agenda. A notice of motion from Councillor McGill, whereas the municipal organization restructuring was a big change implemented last year, and therefore be it resolved that council have a closed session to review it following the 1-year anniversary of its implementation. Mark, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. And I would like to say I really appreciate the report that we just got. That kind of stuff we couldn't talk about in a closed session anyway. We'd have that kind of stuff has to be talked about in public, and anything in a closed session would pertain to like employee relations, that kind of thing. But it's easy to forget sometimes about how much there actually is to do for the staff. But I did think, because it's the 1-year anniversary, or getting close to the 1-year anniversary of the restructuring, we should review it. And there's a few things that I wanted to say, not necessarily all critical either, about the restructuring and what we might do going forward. And I'm hoping the other councillors feel the same way. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. I'll need a mover and a seconder to go into committee. Are we going into committee of the whole tonight on this, Jill, or will this be at a future meeting? Or were you intending to go into this tonight?
Yeah, so Councillor McGill will be the one moving this. And then when we get to the closed session, if the rest of council votes on this matter and agrees to go into closed session, then yeah, it would be dealt with tonight.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I need a seconder for Mr. McGill's notice of motion. Councillor Scholdice, thank you very much. I'll call the question. Any discussion first? All in favor?
Well, I had some discussion, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Martin.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor Allen. I will agree with the notice of motion. However, I would like to add that this motion will not be able to undo some of the damage that has already taken place from the decision made a year ago.
I don't think that's in order, Councillor Vink, and I don't think you're going to get Councillor McGill to accept that as a friendly amendment. So we're going to let.
It wasn't meant as an amendment, Mayor.
Yeah.
It wasn't meant. I was just, you said discussion.
Oh, I thought you were asking for an amendment. Okay. All right. The chair's heard your voice, but I don't think we have to take that statement any further through discussion. I have a mover and I have a seconder for the notice of motion. Just refresh my memory on the seconder. Was it Deputy Mayor Wilkins, was it? Or Councillor Scholdice? Second that. Okay, that's right. Thank you, Michael. I'll call the question. All in favor? All, okay, got it. Thank you, Council. Carried unanimously. Deputy Mayor, will you be kind enough to take the gavel?
Well,
I'm sorry. Yes, Jill?
Mayor Mayhew, we just have another notice of motion, and then we would get to this in the normal agenda to go into closed session.
Okay. Sounds good then. Yep. Yes, I like this notice of motion, Mary Gay. Would you like to speak to it?
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Actually, I think this is everything in here that the Historical Society were asking for. And so I'm prepared to move it, Mayor Mayhew. Thank you very much.
And I'm sure we'll get a seconder for that. Will someone entertain to second that? Councillor Bartlett, I saw your hand first, Doug. Discussion? And I think it's important, and as was reiterated formally, this does not replace, we want it very clear to the listening public that this does not replace our local historical associations and museums and areas of collection. but they'll continue. This will be on a county level. Any further questions? And I will call it to support the recommendation. All in favor? Carried. Item number 10 on your agenda is correspondence and petitions. I have none. Unfinished business. I'm looking at Jill, but Jill, I do not believe we have any. New business. I would like to entertain discussion on 5G and 5H. 5G is with respect to the resolution of the City of Brantford in the Year of the Garden. They have 180 gardens to look after. Councillor Cowell, you wish to discuss this? I'll give you the floor.
Yes, I had a chance to speak with Greg a little bit about this. And the idea I thought that Brampton had was a really great one in the sense of making it a community focus. And I think that with some of the discussion that we've had this year and some of the discussion going into next year with the intentions of spending money on our main street, I thought it would be nice if we considered next year the Year of the Garden, and to ask staff to bring back a report for budget considerations about that. And so some of the idea could be if we had a community group that was interested in maintaining gardens or supporting a garden, there could be a line item in the budget for them to draw from. If there was additional money for economic development with landscaping in regards, because we saw that in the CIP, that there could be, you know, money drawn from that, and many other projects. Even if our own municipality, one of the things that I really thought would be nice is our program coordinator might be able to come up with some programs, perhaps working with the Glencoe District High School, and something to do with gardens. So I don't have any necessary a plan, but this is sort of the idea that some of the ideas that we could consider with the Year of the Garden, and even that position could bring something back with GDHS to have them work on gardens. And if there was some budget to help facilitate that, that's sort of where this is coming from, to be able to, we've seen that our community is very passionate about it. And by having a report come back, we can hear a little bit of feedback, and it can be something that can be considered in the 2022 budget.
Okay, thank you very much. It's good we spoke on that. Is there any other discussion from council on that aspect of the letter from the City of Brantford? I know it well. I visit Brantford regularly, and it is a beautiful city. Okay.
Just a moment. I was actually making a motion that we do a Year of the Garden and bring back a report for the 2022 budget.
And is there a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor Wilkins, discussion? Okay, and Jill, is this motion specific enough to you? No problem. It is. Everything sits well there. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, carried. Okay, that was 5G. 5H is regarding the eye care being taken away, or the proposed to be taken away. And there is a resolution of Trent Lakes. I would imagine this was pulled out so that we could offer our support. Would you like to speak to this, Deputy Mayor Wilkins?
Actually, Mayor Mayhew, it was Councillor Cowell's motion.
Okay.
I did have my hand up, but after she's
realize
done,
that.
I will, if she doesn't cover everything I wanted to say, I will speak to it.
That's why I gave you the opportunity to speak on it, okay? I remember your hand going up. Councillor Cowell, would you like to speak to this?
I just know that my own eye doctor has talked to us about some of these concerns, and I wanted to support them. We do have a local eye doctor, so it does impact our businesses locally and many of our ratepayers. So I don't have a whole lot to say on the topic, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak on it.
Well, the chair supports those statements. Deputy Mayor Wilkins, would you like to add to that?
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Well, I think every one of us here recognizes the importance of good eye care. It hits home for my family specifically, but I'm sure every one of us has a story that we could come back to. So yeah, I think it's important that we support this. Quite frankly, I'm surprised that we haven't seen this come across our table before now. But anyway, thank you, Councillor Cowell, for bringing that up.
Yeah, and there's many in our community who do not have medical benefits of any type, so it helps them if we can retain what we've had in the past. Any further discussion? A motion to endorse the Trent Lakes request of support from Southwest Middlesex. Councillor Cowell.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any questions? All in favor of the support to Trent Lakes? Carried unanimously. Okay. Business. County Council and conference updates. There's none submitted last meeting. I'll catch up in a couple of weeks. Announcements from council. If I could start these off on behalf of council, I'd like to announce our condolences to our councillor who lost his brother here. Doug Bartlett, we send you our sympathy, and we hope you've got fond memories, and that'll be your treasure. But we certainly were surprised by that announcement, Doug, and we send you our blessings and our sympathy, and on behalf of all of council and all of staff as well. Any further announcements? Oh, yeah. I don't know, Doug may have left us, has he? Yeah, he may have fallen off. Sometimes he does that.
Nope, still here.
Oh, still here, Doug. Good.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, I see you there. Okay, gotcha. Okay. Any further announcements? I know there's some festivities coming up in place of the traditional Glencoe Fair. Social media sites have been extremely helpful in reminding of these, and we certainly want to make sure we patronize them. Okay, we'll move to the closed session. A motion to go into closed session at 9:37, please. Would someone like to move that? Moved by Councillor Bartlett, seconded by Councillor Vink. Discussion? All in favor? Thank you. I'll hand the gavel over to the Deputy Mayor now. And Jill will have to take a minute to get us off the